Hey friends, welcome back to a Q&A at the park. This Q&A is going to be all about Reuteri yogurt. I did a Wellness Wednesday video talking about it, and then I also did a dedicated video about like the process of making it. And so I will link to both of those up in the card so you can check that out if you don't even know what I'm talking about when I say Reuteri yogurt. But I got so many great questions on my recipe video that I thought I'd just go ahead and make a dedicated Q&A answering all of them. I kind of play a game with myself when I'm making videos, trying to preemptively answer as many questions as I can in the video, but then inevitably I always miss something or multiple somethings. So hopefully this video will answer a lot of those questions. First question was, can the yogurt be frozen? Like if you want to save back a little bit and freeze it, defrost it, and then make another batch using that as the starter. And I wasn't sure about this, so I did a quick Google search, and it sounds like that yes, you can freeze it. So I might have to test that out, see how it works. But the short answer, I believe, is yes. Next question is from Stacy B. She said, I really love yogurt cheese. I wonder if this strain would work well for that. I'm going to have to try it using this recipe. Yes, I hope you do try it and let me know if you do. My guess is that yes, it would work great. Partly because it's already so thick. It comes out super thick, so I don't think you'd have to strain it as much, maybe. You wouldn't have to get as much whey out of it in order to get a yogurt cheese texture. I absolutely love how thick this yogurt comes out. It's almost like Greek yogurt without having to do any straining. So a little bit of straining would probably give you a really nice yogurt cheese. Next question is from Stephanie. She asked about the carb count and if I knew the carb count for the finished product. And the answer is no, I have no idea. It is fermented for 36 hours, so I imagine a lot of the lactose and sugar in the original half and half gets eaten, but that's just a guess. I think there are some ways that you can test it. Of course, you can test your own blood sugar response to it and see how your body reacts, and that'll give you a good idea of if it has too many carbs for you or not. But as far as testing the actual yogurt, I do believe there's a way to do that, but I am not skilled in that area. I don't know. If anybody knows about testing for, the sugar in the food, I wonder if you could do a blood sugar monitor and like dilute the yogurt a little bit and like actually put it on the blood sugar monitor. I saw 2 Crazy Ketos do that with a bunch of different drinks in a video a while back, and that was really interesting. Maybe I'll have to try to do that. Okay, now that I'm home, I couldn't resist but try the yogurt in the blood sugar monitor, see if I can get an idea if there's any sugar left in it or if it's high or low. Super not scientific, but it will be fun. It's all ready. Oh, there, I did it. I just thinned this down with water. Oh, look at that. Low. That means there's not a lot of sugar in there. That's awesome. I also have a Keto Mojo from a long time ago, and I figured I'd go ahead and test that one too, see if it says anything different. There we go. Oh, also low. Yay, low and low. And do remember that if you are starting out with half and half, it already has a fairly low carb count to begin with. And I also had a comment from somebody saying that they make the yogurt using half and half, and half heavy cream. And so that would reduce the carb count even more. I might try that. Dr. Davis said that he did with heavy cream and it came out like a butter consistency, which was a little bit too much for him. But I might have to try to do that half and half heavy cream. Next question is from Sandra, and she asked about my Instant Pot and the temperature. She said, does it have a changeable temperature setting or do you just use the yogurt setting? So I showed the yogurt setting on my Instant Pot in the last video. It does have an adjustable temperature. So I can set it, I don't remember the range, but somewhere like 90 to 100 and whatever. And so I can set the exact temperature. If I am making yogurt in the liner itself, I think setting that temperature would correlate to the temperature you want the yogurt to ferment at. But because I tend to like to ferment my yogurt in something else inside the liner, like I like to use mason jars, that worked really well. The first one I just did in a bowl. The second batch I did in mason jars inside my Instant Pot liner. Just makes it easy to transfer it to the fridge. You don't have to scoop it out into a different container when it's done. But if you do ferment in a secondary jar rather than in the liner itself, you do have to keep the temperature up a little bit higher than the temperature you want the yogurt to be. So I found with my Instant Pot, if I wanted it to be at 100 degrees, the yogurt itself at 100 degrees, I needed to set my Instant Pot to 105 degrees. And that's just something that you're always going to want to check for yourself. There are so many different ways that you can ferment yogurt and keep it at the right temperature for a long period of time. People do like boiling water in a like a cooler with the yogurt in there. It keeps a high temperature and they have to refresh the water every once in a while. Sometimes people will do just the oven with their light on if it produces enough heat. You can do like a crock pot on a very low setting, Instant Pot. If you live in a really hot area, you might have a room of your house that stays at 100 degrees regularly. Like there's so many different ways to ferment yogurt, and you just have to do like trial and error to figure out how it's going to work for you. Next question is about the flavor, and I did mention this in the other video, but the flavor in the tablets, the Reuteri tablets from Gaia, I believe, they are flavored with mint and with mandarin. And I did not notice any flavor in the finished yogurt. I think it's such a small amount that it just kind of gets buried. And of course, after you do subsequent batches, I mean, that flavoring just gets diminished even more. So didn't notice it at all. Dr. Davis says that he doesn't notice it at all in his yogurt as well. Next question I already kind of answered. And actually I got it asked a couple of times about if I did my second batch in the mason jars themselves, because I showed you the first batch in the bowl, and then the second batch I didn't show you the process of making it. I just showed you the finished product. And yes, I did make it directly in the mason jars, and I found that in my 8-quart Instant Pot I can fit 4 wide mouth mason jars in there. So I can make a full gallon of yogurt in my 8-quart Instant Pot inside the mason jars, which is wonderful. I did find that I needed to take out the silicone sling that I showed you because it's like that thick. I needed something a lot thinner in order for the jars to be at a level where the lid could still close. So I just had a silicone hot pad that was like that thick, like maybe a 1/4 of an inch or less. And I put that at the bottom of the Instant Pot. And remember, the Instant Pot is not going to be cooking. It's only going to be at around 100 degrees. So you don't have to worry about that. Although it was silicone, so it could have cooked and been fine. So I just put that on the bottom just because I didn't want the glass directly on the heat. And then I put my jars on top of the silicone hot pad. And that worked great. In a 6-quart Instant Pot, you can fit 4 pint jars. So you can do 2 quarts inside the mason jars in a 6-quart Instant Pot, and you can do the 4-quart wide mouth jars in the 8-quart Instant Pot. The regular mouth jars are a little bit taller than the wide mouth jars, and I haven't tested those to see if they fit in the 8-quart as well. But it's possible. Another question that I got a couple of times is from people outside the US wanting to know what percentage half and half is here in the States. Totally didn't think of that when I was making the video. So I Googled it, and it turns out that according to the FDA, for something to be labeled half and half, it has to be between 10.5 and 18% fat, which is a pretty big range. So what I'm going to do is just put a picture here of the nutrition facts of the half and half that I use. And so you can compare it to, in Canada, they said they have a 10% and an 18%. And you can just compare it to that and see what's the closest. But of course, you don't have to make it with that exact percentage of fat. You can do it with higher fat. You can do it with lower fat down to like a whole milk, which is, in the US at least, is 3.25%, I believe. you'll just get a thinner yogurt. The more fat you use, the thicker the yogurt. And just as a little note in here, I did find out that this is not technically a yogurt when you use the L-reuteri. It's considered a fermented dairy, and I do not know how that gets classified. If anybody knows the details on that, I'd love to hear it. But it's similar to how kefir, even though it's a fermented dairy, is not considered a yogurt. So this L-reuteri yogurt is just L-reuteri fermented dairy. Next question is from Michelle, and she asked, do you think acacia fiber will work in place of the inulin? And that one I don't know the answer to. All I know is that Dr. Davis says raw potato starch or inulin, and he doesn't mention any other ones. So that's why I've just I've gotten both the potato starch and the inulin and used both. And I honestly don't know about the acacia fiber. It is a prebiotic fiber, and I think certain bacterias prefer certain foods. So I don't know if the acacia fiber would be the preferred food of the L-reuteri or not. Be an interesting thing to experiment with. Maybe I'll do that at some point and try it out. The last one here is not actually a question, but a comment from Liz. She said, I made this a year ago and it was delish. The only problem was the amount of gas produced thanks to the inulin. I came to the conclusion that it was better for me to take the tablets by mouth instead of taking the yogurt due to the inulin. So that's interesting. And it would be interesting to know how much of the inulin gets eaten by the L-reuteri, because when you consume the yogurt, you're not consuming the inulin, or at least not all of the inulin that's in the beginning product. The inulin is the food for the L-reuteri to eat. It eats the food, it poops out probiotics. That's how it works. So the inulin, in effect, is turning into more L-reuteri. At least that's my limited understanding of it. So theoretically, you're not getting all of the inulin, or maybe even any of the inulin that is in the original recipe. I am someone who is very sensitive to inulin. I did that inulin test a week or so ago to kind of see how my small intestinal bacterial overgrowth was doing, and within 30 minutes, I was really feeling it. So I am very sensitive to inulin. And for me, I know that my issue with inulin is that I have the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth in my gut, in my small intestine, that starts to eat the inulin before it gets to the large intestine, where it's actually supposed to get digested. So when you feed the inulin to your L-reuteri bacteria in the yogurt starts eating it. So then when you eat it, the bacteria in your small intestine, if you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, shouldn't be the thing that's eating it. It's already been eaten. But again, I don't know how much of the inulin is left at the end of that 36 hours. I would think 36 hours is enough to get it all eaten, but I have no clue. You could try the raw potato starch and see if you tolerate that better. It could be that you're sensitive to something else besides the inulin, just the dairy itself or something like that. That's a possibility. But like I was saying a minute ago, I am very sensitive to inulin and I can feel it very fast. But with this yogurt, I don't feel any issues. It's helped my digestion so dramatically, and I don't have any kind of the same reaction that I do to just taking inulin. One last thing I wanted to address that I saw a few comments about is if you need to refresh your batch with more of the probiotic pills every once in a while, or if you should just restart with probiotic pills every so often. And I actually have heard differing opinions. Dr. Davis says that he's done 40 or 50 batches just using the previous yogurt as the starter for the next. And he says that as long as your yogurt is looking and smelling like it's supposed to, like you're used to, and as long as you're getting the benefits that you are expecting or wanting from the L-reuteri yogurt, then there's no reason to add more of the probiotic pills or restart with new probiotic pills. But then other people say that after 4, 5, 6, 7 different batches, you should just go back and start fresh. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there from the experts. So I figure I'm going to just follow what Dr. Davis says. I'm going to keep using the previous batch of yogurt to make the next one. fermented dairy to make the next one. And if I, you know, at any point feel like it's not setting up the way it's supposed to, or smelling off, or, you know, I'm not getting the benefits that I was getting from it, then I will start over or just add a couple more tablets along with the previous yogurt starter. So I'll just play with that. But I figured I would just see how it goes from here. So those are my L. reuteri questions. As always, I'm no expert on any of this. I'm just regurgitating things that I have heard from other people. Always go to the source and do your research and find your information from all of the very smart people that know way more than I do. But I hope that answered some of your questions. Leave more questions down below if you have more about this or about other things that I talk about on my YouTube channel. I hope you guys are all doing great, and I will see you again in the next video.